Hello, rodeo fans. Welcome to episode 15 of the Short Round, the official podcast of the Canadian Professional Rodeo Association. I'm your host, Wacey Anderson, and once again, pleased to be joined by my co-host, Clay Creasy. Clay, it's been a busy few weeks in rodeo. It kind of slapped us in the face. Like we kind of talked about this quite a bit over the last few episodes and weeks of how it was kind of seemed like a slow start, but now we're right in the thick of it, and Cowboy Christmas is on the horizon. But it's been some great rodeo action over the past few weeks.
There's a, there's been more than a person can really wrap their head around happening here. They're
That's
trying
crazy.
to dig out the couple of high points. You're more looking at the volume of performances that people have had instead of just
Oh
those
man.
one-offs that it was before. Because so many events, so many wins. They're big individually for people, but you try to look and see who's won how many and everything like that. So it's
Well, and all the big moments too, right? Like, and we don't want to leave anything out or and all these big rodeos and everything. But there's already been some big time moments, kind of coming across the board. Like looking back at the week of May 29th, we have some stuff written down here. Like Bo Cooper had his best run of the year. I think it was 8.3 to win the tie down rope in there, which is his fastest run of the year. He beat the field by over 1 second, and that just like stuff like that. It's pretty awesome looking back. So let's jump into that recap, Clay. You got some stuff written down. I already stole your 1 point about Bo Cooper, but let's talk about the Grand Prairie, Leduc, and Hand Hills weekend.
Yeah, so obviously a bunch of events. That Grand Prairie's your biggest added money one of there. So you look at who's done what there, and I think right off the top you look at Brady Whiteside winning the barrels and then splitting second, third, fourth in the breakaway. That's a huge setup right there,
No, it's
and
wild.
just versatility there. The Whiteside family, again, her sister Kylie won the breakaway rope in at Grand Prairie, so they left the Evergreen Park with a boatload of cash after that trip. So
Oh man, it's
yeah.
crazy. Like every weekend of results, if there's not a Whiteside sister in either the barrel racing, placing the barrel racing or placing the Breakaway Open, like there's something's kind of odd there. So they're having some great success to start the year. And I can't remember if you and I talked about this last show, but I talked about it with Shaya a little bit in the interviews today. But there's been a lot of like ties to the breakaway roping. Have you noticed that in the results? Like there'll be like four
Yeah.
two threes and four two twos and or whatever. It's crazy how competitive it is and how like the margins are so thin in a timed event like that where it's separated by hundreds of seconds.
Well, and yeah, it's such a rapid event that there's always that possibility that in a similar vein with the barrel race, and they almost have to start timing it to more than just a tenth of a second.
Yeah,
Right? There's
yeah.
room maybe to go to that hundredth of a second, like you see in kind of some of those WCRA events, because it is just so rapid
Hmm.
and everything like that. But it's all good regardless.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's good to see like healthy competition and girls being fast and it's super enjoyable for everybody watching. It's just a funny thing that like every time I look at the results, I just pick it out. But anyways, Lucas Moxa, he had a unbelievable weekend. One Grand Prairie, one Leduc, solidified his spot as the number one man in the country. Um, talk about Lucas, man. He's I think he's been around for a long time now and he's made the CFR a few times. He's kind of been knocking on the door at the NFR. We talked about him earlier this year, but he's really truly coming into form and he's going to be a threat for the 2024 Canadian title as we head into Edmonton this fall.
Yeah, I he's such a fantastic rider. He's got such great style, always in the right position. It seems like uses his feet so well and stays so square. And I think, yeah, it's not a matter of if he'll ever make it to Vegas. It's when, and I
Mm-hmm.
could see it very easily being this year. It's just picking away and yeah, taking those learning lessons every year and just adding that and it's interesting because I think we've seen people that have reached that top level maybe younger than maybe it used to be, but I can
Mm-hmm.
remember where, yeah, you'd see a lot of guys that might not make their first NFR till they're in their later 20s and
Mm-hmm.
really take that time to kind of develop. And it's not like he hasn't had a rapid development or had any success,
No.
but I just think he's really a tough competitor out there. And
Oh
again,
man.
coming from that Matza family, they're having that stock to practice on, just being around it your whole life and everything, it's just
A matter of
added so
time.
much to him.
Yeah. And he's just fixing to have his first kid. So I think there's a little bit more motivation to, to stay in the saddle and pick up those checks with a baby on the way. So I think they're just about to have their baby when I saw them in Weyburn a few weeks ago. So if they have had their kid by now, congratulations to the Moxes. It's gonna be awesome. But anyways, another big moment from that weekend was Edgar Durazo. He's the reigning Canadian champion. Anytime he's in the draw, he's a threat to win. But he was 89 points on Wild Time in Grand Prairie to win up there in GP. But he also won Strathmore last year on that same bull, pretty much exact same ride. If you go back and look at his video they posted from Grand Prairie and up in over there in Strathmore, it's basically a carbon copy of a ride. But Edgar's he's been a little quiet this spring, but he's kind of picking away. But this was his first big win of the year. But yeah, what can you say about Edgar, man? He's always a threat when he's around and healthy. So yeah, gotta watch
For
out for him.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's just got such an energy about him,
Oh
right? I
man,
mean,
yeah.
if you want to pull for him every day. I mean, he just such a great person to be out there rodeoing, and yeah, you definitely hope for big moments like that for a
Oh
guy like
yeah.
him.
He's a guy to root for, man. Like you say, he has that energy, he's contagious. I love being around him. He's a good family man. He's a good representative of the sport and he's a good kind of ambassador for all that stuff. So I love seeing Edgar have success and we'll be talking about him lots on this summer. I'm sure we will. So bravo Edgar. Before we wrap up that week of segment of rodeo, I guess we could call it. We had the first annual Outlaw Buckers and Oil Kings match bronc riding over there in Weyburn. It was a huge event. I was out there working it, helping them out on the social side of things, and it was really cool to be back in that part of the world and to see like Southern Saskatchewan get its due and have an event of that size. Like they knocked it out of the park. That's the fullest I've ever seen their Weyburn grandstands and rodeo grounds in my life. And I have family from around there, and I have some friends, and just talking to people, they were so stoked with how the event went. So I just wanted to give them a tip of the cap for everybody, the crew over there, like Robert Schmidt, obviously John Comita, Keaton Vine, Ben Kincaid and his crew at B90 Media. Everybody did like an outstanding job from top to bottom, and it paid off. Look at we had some big rides, some big dogs come through town, and we had two guys walk away with over $9,000 in their pockets. So you can't really say more about an event like that when you have all those elements come together and go off the way it did. So that was pretty badass. It's coming and it's going to be airing on the Cowboy Channel this weekend on Sunday. So Clay, if you haven't had a chance to watch it or want to check it out and hear Butch Knowles on the mic, that was a cool thing. Getting to work with Butch, he's such a cool guy. So yeah, stay tuned. You can watch the event back, what it was.
Yeah, no, and again, I give Robert and all of you guys so much credit for getting that in line in such a short window. And again, putting that production, it just sounded like a first class event that most places couldn't get to in 5 years if
Mm-hmm.
they started somewhere. And again, just props to everybody there. And yeah, I know Keenan had mentioned that there was as many fans that were there just to get to meet Butch as they were to ride the bronc or watch the
Yeah,
bronc riding and everything like that. So it's again, you add those pieces and those elements in a professional environment and do all of those things, you're well on your way to making something that's going to leave an impression on the Weyburn community for a long time. And it sounds like
100%.
it'll be a good one
Well,
for
and
many
even
years.
the feedback from I think a lot of the competitors were surprised with what the event brought. Like it's obviously being a new event, and a lot of guys have never been to Weyburn and knowing what they could bring to the table. So I think the crew like Robert and Keenan and the Saskolo show and all the crew down there. Then Dan Cugnett, can't go without mentioning him. He was a big part of it. But I think they opened some eyes and showed that Southern Saskatchewan is not messing around when it comes to putting it on world class events. So excited to see what they come up with next. Hopefully they can make it an annual thing and rock on as we move forward. But another huge announcement on the Pro Rodeo Canada front play. We announced the Precision Rodeo Tour last week, which consists, I'm just going to read off some of the stuff here. So in partnership with Precision Well Servicing and Precision Drilling, we've partnered to create a 10 event Western Canadian tour that kicked off in Brooks and Bonnyville last weekend. So this kind of is a good segue into last weekend's action, but also kind of a big deal for Pro Rodeo adding another tour to the schedule.
For sure. And you know, I actually got to talk to Danny Phipps there, the general manager last week, kind of as that was about to get announced. And and it was a really kind of, it just speaks to the open-endedness that the CPRA is willing to take on some of these sponsorship agreements, in the sense that they don't go to them saying, here's what we're wanting. They look at these partners and companies like Precision here, where say, what do you want to do? Where do you
Mm-hmm.
want to be? How can we help you get there, and really come up with a partnership that works? And I mean, these rodeos were selected by Precision to put them in front of places they wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
really allow them to have that precise placement in locations where they do a lot of business and hope to do more business,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and find good people that, again, there's a lot of overlap between the values of the people in the Western communities and the oil field communities. So that's where they were pointed in their selection of these places. So
Yeah, it's super exciting, man. It's good to see, again, like you say, these partnerships evolve, and we've seen what happened with the SMS tour and how that relationship has grown with Pro Rodeo, and I'm just really excited to see kind of this, how this pans out, and hopefully this turns into a lucrative partnership for both parties. So bravo to everybody involved getting that done. Okay, well, that throws us into the week of June 10th. We had a lot of awesome action. It was Bonneville, Lee Park, Brooks, and Rocky Mountain House were on. So it was our first four banger of a rodeo weekend. So there's a lot of action to catch up on. But just looking at our points here, the first thing we have to talk about is the champ, Zeke Thurston. He's kind of re-announced to everybody that, hey, I'm still here and I'm not going away. He's currently as of I was just looking at this, as of the Grand Prix Stampede and Leduc Pro Rodeo added to the standings, Zeke is currently seventh in the Canadian standings. So he won Lee Park last weekend. He placed at all four rodeos, and he's obviously going to be making some moves up from seventh. But anyways, like I said, I feel it was a moment where Zeke was like, "Hey, I'm back. I'm here to show why I'm the champ, why I'm the boss." And yeah, he's going to be tough to beat again once again all summer.
yeah, I don't think we're gonna look here and say, oh, Zeke had cooled off and now he's warming back up. He just taking care of business at home and doing those kinds of
Mm-hmm.
things, and just not out there as much. But yeah, I looked it over, and yeah, he placed it all four last weekend. He placed it the three he entered the weekend before,
Mm-hmm.
and Buffalo Lake the weekend before that. So he when he's riding, I mean, you very, very seldom throw him off, and
Mm-hmm.
no matter what he draws, he's going to make a great ride. And that rematch with Zach Kibitz there at Lee Park, one that he'd won, I think it was the ninth round at the NFR
Yep.
last year on, and just a horse that, as much as it maybe doesn't look like it fits in that eliminator pen that it was in there last year, there's
Mm-hmm.
definitely more to it. There's a lot of action, low to the ground, not a lot of time to keep up with.
Mm.
So you got to really be at it. And again, Zeke just took it to it, and made a great ride. So it was
Yeah.
good to see.
That's good. It's one of those things that every time I write a caption for a video on Pro Rodeo and it involves Zeke and a Calgary Stampede horse, it's usually him winning somewhere. So anytime you see that in the draw, you place your bets on Zeke and the Stampede horse to get the job done. But another duo that kind of, again, like they kind of again announce that they're back, and they want people to forget about them. We talk a lot about Brady Chine and Calgary Smith and Team Ropin, and they've kind of been shooting the lights out. But some guys that are always a threat to win are the Graham brothers. They had a 5 flat run in Lee Park to get the win, and they're 4-6. And that was in Rocky, weren't they? Were they 4-6? Yeah, in Rocky to win the 50th anniversary of the Rocky Pro Rodeo. So the Graham brothers, they're back. They're hustling. They're trying to make their first NFR. I think they've learned from what I think you talked about it, or where did I see this? That they kind of learned from their past seasons of kind of how what they need to do to go with their business. But it's good to see them back in the winner's circle.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, they rope so well. The Graham family tied in with the Fletcher family from Wainwright here. I mean, roping is their life. They're just they know how to deal with all of that. But it's still, there's a lot of lessons you learn, and again, they're just going to go at her, and it's going to be quick. I mean, last year they went on a heater where they were winning pretty much everything for several weeks stretch there in July and August, and I don't doubt that, again, they're capable of keeping doing this all day in and day out. They're
Mm-hmm.
just really good partnership. I mean, they just know exactly what's going on between the two of them. So really, really good watching when they get
Oh
in the.
man. Yeah, they're electric when they get going, and then they're like well, was it 2 or 3 years ago where they won that big run where they won like 5 rodeos in a row? Like they those guys can, once they get hot, watch out for them. They're gonna be doing some winning. Another guy who could you consider kind of a bounce back weekend, and what he even said to himself, he felt he kind of had a slow spring up in Canada. Was Jake Gardner. He won over $12,000 last weekend between the 4 rodeos, $12,713 to be exact. But he won second in Lee Park. He's the only one to stay on in Rocky Mountain House, and he was the only one to stay on in Brooks, the Newell Pro Rodeo. Went 3 for 4, and yeah, pocketed over $12,000 cash. And this is the now the third time this year that we've had a one bull rider walk away with a ton of money in his jeans. So man, talk a bit about Jake and that dude. Like that's crazy. I don't know. Like I feel like we're at a point where the bull riding's at like the best it's been for a lot of time, in a long time in Canada. But just the way the chips have fallen, I guess the guys that are riding at the right time and picking up those big checks.
I think every year what we say the bull riders are riding good, we can sometimes forget that these bulls are really, really
Yeah,
good
yeah,
too.
that's the thing
And
too, for
so
sure.
you get a guy, contractors that bring a pen of bulls and say, "Oh, you guys are ready to ride today? Well, I hope you are, because it's coming." And so yeah, I think it's just, I mean, half of that $12,000 was in ground money.
Hmm.
Again, a lot
Hmm.
of the person there, and again, that all counts, both in
Hmm.
the CPRA and the PRCA. So it just leads to these big swings and this pocket full of money that these guys get to leave with. And yeah, you just you can't argue with that weekend, no matter how slow the year's been so far.
Yeah, yeah, that doesn't hurt to throw $12,000 towards the standings and into your pocket. So nice work, Jake. Nice work. Next on our list, we're getting through it. We're getting through it. We're getting through all these notes that we got to go through, but we're we're getting there. So Joe Biever and his partner Levi Pettigrew, is that how I pronounce that? Won the team rope in Bonneville, and his wife was also there competing. But cool to see Joe Beaver competing at our Canadian rodeos.
Yeah, for sure. And again, that's just a really, really obviously legendary name in
Mm-hmm.
rodeo. And so to see them in Bonneville, I mean, it'd be one thing if they're entering Pinoca and some of those bigger ones, but to show up and end up in Bonneville for the win, that's really cool for Canadian rodeos and for that local community to get that opportunity to see that
Mm-hmm.
that kind of that kind of name pop up.
And just an iconic guy, like everybody who's watches the NFR or anything big events on the Cowboy Channel, like Joe's like definitely a highlight of that, right? So cool to see him compete. Like you say, maybe not at the biggest rodeo we have, but it's nice to see those types of people going down the road.
For sure. And I went to a roping school here a couple years ago that Al Bouchard put on and Morgan Grant was helping with. And I remember Morgan talking about just the impact on Morgan's ability to rodeo and win and just the lessons he's learned. I know Joe puts on a ton of events and organizes a ton of roping events down in the States and really just is a huge proponent of the sport. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
great to see again making that drive north of the 49th.
Well, and we talked about him in the top of this segment, but Lucas Moxa, he was on the board again, split the win in Bonneville, got second in Brooks. He's furthering the distancing the gap for that number one spot in Canada.
Yeah, again, I don't think we're going to slow him down here for
No,
the
no, no.
foreseeable future. Hopefully not.
Yeah, no, it's good to see. I'm really happy for Lucas. I've known, and I'm sure the same for you, knowing him since he was a little tiny kid running around behind the chutes at Ward's rodeos, and it's awesome to see him finding success. So yeah, hopefully he can keep it rolling. And I think it's getting, as we roll into Cowboy Christmas here, Clay. I think we're gonna see like a lot of these races heat up, more people winning money, and it's just gonna be get bigger and bigger. And I'm excited to see where we end up on like the final tally for winnings this year. I know I think it's safe to say that we're going to smash earnings records across the board for everybody. So yeah, I'm just really stoked to see how the rest of the year plays out, especially after this big round of Cowboy Christmas.
For sure. I think it's all coming from the fact that we've got more fans at our rodeos, which allows committees to have the ability to increase their purse. And again, the numbers of contestants keep going up. We're seeing more and more, and just means there's more to win. And so yeah, it's always interesting seeing those names that have almost nothing one that suddenly
Hmm.
just and
Yeah.
right on by so many names on those lists come the start of July. So
Well, and
it'll
that's
be a good one.
and that's a pretty good segue into our feature interview this week. We got the reigning Canadian champion breakaway roper Shaya Biever joining us, and she's kind of had a slow start to her standards, probably in the standings. I think she's 20. I have it written down here. She's 26th in Canada and 56 in the world. So maybe not where she wanted to be at this time of year, but um, you'll be convinced that we'll be seeing her in the top 12 and hopefully get down to Vegas at some point. But after hearing their interview, she was great to talk to. So I think this is as good a time as any to throw to our interview. That was a grind of a first half, but we got through it, and I think people can catch up on their rodeo news. But yeah, we'll throw it to that, and we'll catch y'all after this. Welcome back to episode 15 of the short round. I am super stoked to welcome our next guest. She is the 2023 Canadian Breakaway Roping Champion, Shaya Biever. Welcome to the show. How's it going today?
It's going good. Thank you for having me.
You're coming hot off the Stavely Slack performance where you were 2.3 seconds, currently leading it. Talk a bit about your run there. I know this is not kind of the theme of the show, but yeah, how talk about what you're on Stavely.
It was really good. Honestly, it was one of the best slacks that I've watched. All the girls were really bringing it, and everybody's been on the barrier and catching, and it's been a heck of a year. I'm happy to finally break the earth and do what I do best.
One thing that I've noticed, and we'll get into more of your story here in a sec, but one thing I've noticed, especially in Canada this year, there's been a lot of ties in the breakaway roping. Like there's been a lot of like you see like a 3 or 4 way tie of 2.2 or 2.3 or 2.4. What's the reasoning for that? Just like a random thing, or is it just like you say the competition's there? What's going on?
I think it's the competition's there, and there our calves. We always make sure Maynard makes sure that we have a pretty even set of calves, and so just all the girls are roping in the same spot. And I mean, it's just the flagger drops the flag, same thing, watches the same run back to back to back. There's going to be a lot of the same times, but I just think it's basically consistency of the calves and consistency of the ropers.
It's funny. I'll look through results from the weekend to see the amount of ties. It's such a crazy thing to see that many in a timed event. But anyways, awesome stuff. So Shaya, a lot of people here probably know you, or a lot of listeners probably know who you are and know your story. But I was good friends with your brothers back in the day when we were rodeoing. You guys are from Clarendon, but I want to hear more of your story. Like, tell us a bit more about your family, where you grew up, and kind of how you got into rodeo, and all that fun stuff.
Well, I was born actually in Rimby, Alberta, and we lived in Alder Flats until I was 5, and then we moved to Claresholm. So I've only known Claresholm basically growing up, but
Mm.
my dad trained horses a lot, and he team roped a lot, and so I don't remember ever not having a rope in my hand, but I actually like to team rope a heck of a lot more than I like to breakaway rope, and it wasn't until my second year of college that I even started taking this event seriously. But basically my dad roped, my mom roped, and we just continued it, and we've always been around horses and horse training and everything like that. But we started off the same way I think everybody does, high school rodeoing the small spurs, and that's where we started.
Well, it's funny. It's like, so rodeo was always kind of like on the horizon for you, and you mentioned like you didn't really start taking breakaway roping serious until college. Like, why was that? Was it like obviously you're interested in team roping, and I guess maybe at the time when you were going into college, there really wasn't much availability on the pro level for breakaway roping. I guess could be a reasoning, but yeah, why the late start? I guess you could say in the breakaway roping.
Well, my dad mostly team roped, so I took to that and I wanted to do that. And then
Mhm.
I started breakaway roping just for another event to do at the high school rodeos. I had a horse, and then even by the time I went to college, I knew that there was nothing after college for me to
Mhm.
really go with breakaway or like even think about it as a job or anything like that. And then all of a sudden it was like you started hearing rumors and whispers that it was going to be at the pro rodeos. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, dang, maybe I should start actually paying attention and make this worth my time. And I did. And I truly do love the event now.
It's cool. It's neat to hear it that way because I think, and for you maybe you're not doing as much on the barrel racing side. Like after college rodeo, like there was nothing if you didn't barrel race on the pro rodeo side. So how refreshing was it to have that door open, or how exciting I guess is probably the better term. But yeah, having another door open at that level for ladies.
It's amazing. Like I said, like my brother grew up riding steers, and I mean, I bet you I've been to all of these rodeos watching him ride steers at the pro level. And the first year that he made the CFR, I can remember saying, "I will never get to run here unless I
Yeah.
buy a barrel horse." And so, honestly, it was just a pretty surreal thing that, honestly, a decade later, after I watched my brother ride steers, I got to rope at the CFR. So,
Awesome.
like, I don't even have the words for it, but it is super cool that we can do something other than barrel racing.
It's cool to see. It's been really cool to see the evolution of it all over the last like 2 or 3 years. Like since the CFR brought it in for a few perfs, and they have the like the NFR breakaway at the during the NFR in Vegas. There's more money out there. It's just crazy. Like you can make a pretty damn good living breakaway open nowadays. Like how motivating is that for
Absolutely.
you to be able to have that opportunity? I guess, or be offered that opportunity.
It's insane, but it's honestly super cool. Like I think that this is something that I've watched Larry D and Hope and Jackie do their whole lives, and you just kind of sit here and wonder, man, like how could I do that for a living? And now the amount of committees and just everybody that's poured money into this event for us to actually make a living with the rope, it's insane.
Well, and so how do you go about it? Like I know, like obviously practicing is a big part of it, but are you training your own horses? Or are you buying horses? Or where's your horsepower come from?
Right now I have trained both of the horses that I have. Every horse that I've rode, we have trained. My dad has started them and we've trained them up. My good black horse, he's been with us since he's 3. He's 17 now. So we just know each other. And then the backup horse that I have, I actually bought when I was down at school, but same thing. I did all the training with him and brought him up to a breakaway horse. It's a lucrative market out there. And so I think to
Mhm.
buy one that's finished, you have to have a pretty healthy budget or something to trade across.
Well, I guess, and I think being able to like build that bond with your horse and kind of know the ins and outs, it's got to be such a huge advantage. I know I guess your current traveling partner, Kendall Pearson, she's kind of on the same program of raising and riding her own horses, and I think you can see when there is that bond between the horse and rider.
Yes, absolutely. It's a lot. You just know their every move where like the
Yeah.
start is so important in our event because you can't make up any time if you miss the start. And so just knowing from the back of your hand how your horse is going to leave, like it so helps you to peg out every barrier, and that's so important.
Well, and I want to talk, I guess, moving on into the next part of it. 2023, you're the 2023 Canadian champion. You had an awesome season. I can't remember which place you came into the finals. I'm just looking on the thing here. It looks like you were one, two, three, four, five, fifth. Is that right? Sound about right? You're heading into the finals, fifth or sixth,
Um,
or where were you? I don't know. I can't remember what the actual standings from that year were heading into the CFR. Um,
I know. I don't actually know what place I was. Honestly, I
well,
just know that I was 2,000 behind Aubrey.
either way, it's you come into the finals, maybe not as one of the favorites to win the title, but you come in, have a super solid week, I guess we can call it, in Red Deer, and you walk away with the championship. But how awesome was that? Let's let the talk. I
It
guess
was
break down the week for the for the beginning. So like kind of that first round, and then kind of as the week progresses. Let's start from round one for you guys.
Well, for our round one, we run round one and round two in the same day. And I mean, round one, I don't the first year I went to the CFR, I had a bit more jitters than I thought I was going to, but this year I was very locked in, just ready to go rope. And I missed the barrier a bit on my first one, but I still got it caught and I wasn't concerned about it. I was just my game plan when I went in there was to just see my start and rope my calf and let everything else take care of itself. And then I ended up placing in that round, and then we came back for the night performance, and I felt very energized and geared up for that performance. I don't know what it was, but everything just felt good, and I ended up nailing the barrier, and I split the round with Shelby that night, and so that was just it was honestly just a nice like leg up, like just
Mm.
kind of breath
Showing you can
that
hang, you can like showing that you can like hang and like compete and like well,
yeah.
Shelby was like number one in the world at the time too, so it's like you can compete with the best in the world.
Yes, like it was a big confidence booster and just enough to set you over to the next day. And the next day, honestly, I didn't know where I was sitting. I didn't know any of the money. I didn't know nothing. My job description did not change. So I missed the barrier and not even on purpose. And I was very mad about it because my calf, it was the first one that Shelby had in the first
Mhm.
round and it stepped left. And I had to take a couple extra swings to get it. but I knew that I had won the average, and that's all I really knew. But
Mm.
honestly, I left the building. I didn't know I won Canada. I left the building, and I was a little bit salty. I had to take 2 swings.
Well, it's funny because you were fast, you were 2.8, but you end up seventh in the round, which is just shows like the quality of contestants we have in Canada
Oh
and
yeah,
across the
it
board in
was
the
a
breakaway. That's a fast breakaway open.
yes, and I was honestly a little bit butthurt that I wasn't able to go 1 at the CFR, and I knew I won the average, but I was like, "I don't even know," and I just left.
So you say you didn't really have any idea of like what the money was or anything heading into that final round, but like did you feel any added pressure or how did you like navigate your way or like how did you keep yourself grounded and ready to like compete at your highest level like you know how to?
Last year I really went through the mental strategy of it all and talked to a lot of different people. And yeah, the best advice that I ever got was that whether you're backing in at a circuit rodeo or you're backing in at the CFR, your job description doesn't change. Like my only job is to see my start and rope the calf to the best of my abilities. And that really, really grounded me out last year, this year, even the CFR. I felt no jitters just because I didn't, it was just another rodeo to me. Like in the end, obviously it was very cool to win, but in the moment, it's just another rodeo and it's just another calf.
Well, it's cool because I want to compliment you on that because like I was in the arena for all of your runs and just seeing your kind of process and the way you like going into the box and just waiting for your turn. Like you were very calm and seemed like yeah, you had the eyes on the prize. So I just wanted to give you a little shout out for that. That's pretty it's pretty cool. It's not easy to do that on that big of a stage, especially like once you get to those like Saturday nights and Sunday performances when the building's full. And just you have all those really good people kind of down the list. Like it's not easy to keep your composure and get the job done. So,
Yeah,
so kudos to
absolutely.
you. That's cool. So I want to, there's a few different directions I want to go here, but first I want to go into 2024. So, um, a lot of stuff happening for this year. I just had a meeting with Jenny Phipps, and he mentioned that you're heading to the NFR Open in July. Uh, you had
Yeah.
some pretty good success down south. In the spring, you got about 10,001 in the world standings. You're 56 in the world. What's your approach for 2024? Are you making a push for the NFR or are you focusing on home soil or where are you at with all that?
Well, it's funny because I've been telling everybody that this year I'm not going hard. I wanted to hit some more tour rodeos. Everybody I think found out last year how important the tour rodeos are down south,
Mm.
and most of the rodeos that I had planned out were tour rodeos, and so my only goal was to just try and make the tour finals, try and make the CFR, and then Danny called and said that I got into the NFR Open with a roll up. And so now I'm still favoring Canadian rodeos, but I'm entered pretty good down south. It still is my goal. I would just like to make the tour finals. It would be very cool to make the NFR, but I wouldn't say that that's a total goal for me this year if it comes down to it.
Well, I think I guess a person can kind of almost make it the decision after the NFR Open that there's so much money to be won there, and if a person goes there and does well, you can you can pretty much make that decision one way or another if you want to stay home more or whatever. And the thing
Yeah,
too, the thing
there's
about
so
it,
much money to
yeah,
be won.
yeah, that's the thing. And there's so much out there. And you look at even in Canada, like that's I've had this conversation with a few other people. Like the amount of money that's being added at our rodeos, it's like changing the game. You can do really well at home, but you can also like win a good chunk of the money you need to win to make the NFR at home, which is pretty dang cool.
Yeah, and that's where I still think, like, I mean, last year was my rookie year and it kind of got held up there for a minute, but I mean, I had a pretty good Canadian year and I hit 2 or 3 rodeos down south, and I mean, I was right up in there with the thick of them for the longest time. I
Mhm.
still like I there's a lot of money to be won at the Canadian rodeos and they're not to be passed up.
No, for sure. And it's funny. I've been around rodeo my whole life and competed around it and grew up around it. I just found out last year that the money won at Canadian rodeos counts one for one in the US. I always thought they would take the Canadian like dollar discount off this. I'm like, well, why would anybody from the US come rodeo up here if you're gonna win? You get your dollar knocked off. But it's funny. I always like laugh at myself like how silly that is to think. But it makes a big deal when you have these big rodeos and but like always adding more and more money. Um, Another cool thing for 2024 I wanted to get into is at the CFR this year, CFR 50 in Edmonton, all 5 performances are going to include breakaway roping. How amazing is that for you guys as the breakaway ropers as a whole, and how stoked are you to be part of the CFR completely this year?
It's very exciting to us to get to compete alongside everybody every single night and showcase what we do is amazing. And like you said, we're the first people to include it in all the performances on a finals level. And I think that that's very cool for Canada. And I think it'll only help push breakaway to everybody else as far as committees and everything. But for them to see us and see that we are there to compete every single round, it's unreal.
It's a cool thing. It's kind of like another feather in the cap for Canadian rodeo. I know, like again, the CFR has included breakaway roping, which was kind of the first people to include it at all, which was a big step. And then last year we had the replay thing come in, and then now we have the breakaway roping. It's a nice feather in the cap for us, and seeing all the work Lakota's put in, and you guys have to do some of your own fundraising via the auction, which is, I think it's coming up soon. If you want to plug that, like, go ahead. But it's just the amount of work and elbow grease and time you guys invest outside of the arena to make this stuff happen. It's pretty cool. So hats off to you guys.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's
What
very, like you said, Lakota and everybody have done a spectacular job promoting this event and getting it everywhere. And yeah, they do a great job.
and talk a bit more about that auction. Do you know any of the details on it, or am I?
Yeah, we have an auction, a silent auction on Facebook every year. It's open to the public. We'll usually we're going to start sharing it earlier this year with the CFR being earlier, but we get a lot of amazing donated items from people and anywhere from horse products to house ornaments to everything. It's crazy the amount of support that we get, but it'll be on a Facebook group and it'll be shared all over by basically everybody that's entering will be sharing the post.
Yeah, and we'll make sure to do our part and help you guys on the pro rodeo side. So be on the lookout for that coming up soon. It's one of those things that helps kind of grow the sport and supports you guys. So anything we can do there, it's amazing. But kind of another part of the CFR thing I wanted to ask is how like you kind of mentioned it earlier, but how awesome is it going to be there every day and competing? I know you kind of said that you'd be there the last couple of years and people be asking you if you're roping or be there to watch you and you're not roping, but now you don't have to go and hang out for the first few days. Now you get to be there in Edmonton from start to finish competing. How refreshing or exciting is that aspect?
I think it's super refreshing and like you say, like just to have 5 rounds. And I mean, like, that's the thing too, like we've only ever had 3. Like it's just you get to bring your game, like, you get your ceremony, you go to get your back numbers and everybody else gets to go put them on. We don't have to sit there and watch them and just wait for
Yeah,
our
yeah.
time, but now we get to do it with them. And like it's, I don't know, it's gonna be surreal.
Well, and having those 5 rounds is kind of going to change the game. I know, like for you last year, like there was really no room for error, and I don't think there will be with 5 rounds, but it's going to be a bit more strategy involved. I feel like with 5 rounds for you guys, because again, you want to stay in the average, but you also don't want to be too slow. Like again, your guys' third round last year, you were 2-8 and finished seventh. Like that could make or break a Canadian title or not.
Absolutely. It
That's
it'll definitely, I don't know. Like I say, I always just I try and do the same thing every single run and just keep sticking with it, but it will open up more opportunities because I mean it's like I said, after that run, honestly, I the only thing I did know was that if I caught that calf, I won the average. And that average check usually helps you to become a Canadian champion. And like you said, over 5 rounds, it'll get interesting. Like it's another aspect too. Like you watch all the rounds of the team roping or whatnot, and like I don't know, you watch the electricity of Calgary and
oh
Brady
yeah,
going all
oh my
those
gosh,
rounds, and I mean they get to keep coming back. Whereas like it's almost like we just get started and just get settled in, and then they're like,
yeah,
oh well, it's done.
it's
So
over.
it's
Thanks
gonna
for
be very
coming.
cool to go all 5.
Well, and then again, I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but I want to go back to that moment you found out you won Canada. What was going through your head? What was that feeling like? It's got to be obviously a dream realized, but what was that like finding out you had won?
It was, I don't know, it was like a breath of fresh air. Like I guess it was one of those things where like, you work for it and you go through the ups and downs of everything, and then all of a sudden it like I don't have the words to actually explain it, but it was just like people were calling me and texting me, and I bet you it was a week before it finally set in or that it
Mhm.
was like you won Canada. And like it's a wild feeling. Like I was making fun of Brady for not having any words when we got our buckles, and I didn't have 0 words.
That's once you get put on the spot, it's hard to come up with those words. But and what was it like getting your buckle with your name on it? I've been meaning to ask this a lot of people I've talked to who've won that kind of stuff. So for those who don't know, after you win, you have to send your buckle away to get your name put on it. But when you got that back in the mail has your name on it. Like how amazing was that to see have your name on that Canadian Championship buckle and to wear it around too, I guess.
It's very cool. It's very fun. It's I don't know, it's just one of those things, like I say, honestly, every time I look at it, I probably grin at it just because I guess from me rodeoing and growing up, I never would have thought I'd have a gold buckle with my name on it.
Right?
And
Yeah.
it, like I say, it's, you get the same feeling every time you look at it. Like I've asked a couple people if it goes away, but I don't know. Like that's something, like not everybody gets to have that.
No, it's so good. It's such a cool thing. And again, like you can say, from going not knowing if you'd ever have that opportunity to strap it onto your belt, it's like gotta be like one of the most amazing feelings. Continuing on the CFR conversation, where the CFR is a month earlier this year. Are you excited for that? Are you sad it's not November anymore? Where's kind of the consent? What's the vibe like around the breakaway ropers or rodeo contestants these days with the change in the CFR? I know it's not new
I
news,
mean,
but
most of the people that I know we're fully for it. We don't like being cold in November, and it, you know, we get to leave right after and go down to the States and snowbird it. So most of my friends, we're pretty all right with
pretty
it.
stoked. Yeah.
But
Well,
I think it'll be cool, and I think it'll be good for rodeos. I know that now that month of rodeos counts towards next season, and I think that's kind of cool. You know, if you're not
mhm,
having a great year in your circuit, you can kind of make up some money on those ones. And I just think that that's a cool opportunity. I think entries will stay up.
mhm.
I think it'll be cool to see what happens.
Well, one thing I think I'm excited for is the. I know the break is good for people to heal up if you're hurt or whatever, but I think you're gonna have fresher stock because they're like used to they're in like competing shape. They're not sitting in the cold for a month or whatever before the CFR starts. And even for you guys, you're kind of at you're sharp as you'll ever be because for a lot of people that's crunch time. You got to make some moves. So I'm excited to see where the level of competition is at because I feel like last CFR was like some of the best CFR content rodeo wise that we've ever had. So it'll be interesting to see how the kind of the moved up schedule like affects all that kind of stuff. Are you feeling any pressure to win again? Now that you're the reigning champ, that was where my train of thought where I lost. I'm back on it now. But are you feeling any added pressure being the reigning champ, or you kind of just keeping that same approach and taking it one match at a
I'm
time?
trying to keep the same approach, but I'm not gonna lie and say it hasn't been there. I think that it's, like I say, I think it's the coolest thing in the world to win, but I think that everybody's watching you,
Mhm.
and that's new for me. I mean, I think it's another thing that makes you become great in the end. But yeah, a couple of the first rodeos, I mean, it's just, you know, every time you're in a performance, hell, sometimes even when you're in a slack, like it's, this is Shaya Biever, this is your reigning
This is
Canadian
the Canadian
champion.
champ.
And I mean, I've never had that before. Like I've qualified for a lot of things, but I mean
Yeah.
that's the real deal. And so it took a little bit to just remember that, like I said, my job description is the same, whether I won Canada or whether I
Yeah.
lost it, it's the same.
Well,
And
it's
now that I feel like I've kind of got back to myself on that part. I feel like the last couple rodeos I've been trying to go really, really fast, and it's
yeah.
not needed.
No, it's a lot of times just about being consistent, and it's funny for people who don't know like typical rodeo setups. A lot of the time, there's a big stack of speakers right beside the timed event box, so you're probably getting the announcer blasting it right in your ear just as you're about to run that you're the reigning Canadian champ. It's just funny to think of it that way. But I want to talk about some of your traveling partners and those people and right now you're traveling with Kendall and she's a Canadian champion. She's made the NFR and she's done so much at a young age, just like you have. Like, what's it like traveling with Kendall and how do you guys feed off each other to kind of continue to push to be great?
Man, it's great traveling with Kendall. Like I say, it's nice to talk to somebody that has gone through the same things. Like there's nothing that we could say to each other that the both of us haven't felt at some point in the season. And so just being able to just talk about it and then like completely erase it from each other's minds, like that kind of energy is everything when you're in the rig, because there's going to be times where it's not going good for one of you, but it's home with Kendall. Like, I mean, if one of us is doing good, the whole rig is happy. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, we both want each other to be up there, but if somebody can be doing good, then that's the way it should be. And it's a lot of knowledge. And I mean, I owe it to Kendall this year. She's been helping me to enter South and whatnot. And it's funny to say because she is probably like 4 years younger than me, but man, everything, like I'm instantly, hang on, I gotta call Kendall and make sure that this
Oh
is
yeah.
okay, because she's basically my travel agent.
Oh yeah, she's there. The whole Pearson family, they're impressive folks, and what they've accomplished in across the board is amazing. So it was good. I was stoked to see you guys traveling together in Leduc. I feel like you guys complement each other well. You guys both like to have fun, and you're high level athletes and do good stuff. Another person I wanted to ask about is Shelby Shelby Beaujolais. She world champ last year, Canadian. How inspiring is that? And I'm sure you guys are good friends and all that kind of stuff. But how inspiring is that for someone like you to see that a Canadian can go down and compete at that level? And even Kendall's a good example of this too, going down to the NFR and doing what she's done. But how inspiring is that for you to see that, hey, I get a shot at this too?
It's very inspiring, especially I high school rodeoed with Shelby. I college
Mhm.
rodeoed with Shelby, and like I was down in Texas with her, and I think got big when she started doing like amazing. And like you say, it puts a face to everything, and the fact that it's so personal, like it hits so close to home. Like you say, like it's a well, Shelby did it, and she put her heart and soul into it. Like if I do that, like I can do it too. And it's very cool to watch. I am a big fan of most of her podcasts that she has. Like she talks very humble and down to earth about it all, and that's the way that it should be. And like you say, like to think like honestly, like I found photos of us, pictures of us at provincials or something, and you're just like to think here we are now. She's won the world, and like it's unreal.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's crazy to think about, but like you say, it puts a like you go around, you see everybody that's famous, and you're like, oh my goodness, and it's whispers, but it's like every time I see Shelby, I talk to her because
Just like an old friend.
we're the same.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's something to be said for that, like just getting to know those people and having those prior relationships, like just help like feel at ease at these places. Um, the next thing I wanted to
Yes.
ask you is about outside of the arena. I know everybody sees what goes on inside, but there takes a lot of work outside of the arena. So what are some of the things you're doing outside of the arena to be at your best?
Most of the time when I'm outside the arena, I am trying to make sure that my mind is good. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I have a book that I constantly read, and then practice pen. It's at this point, it's all about horsepower and it's what
Mm,
they need. And I have a select practice that's for myself on a particular horse, but like my good horse, it's all for him and what he needs. And I usually just do enough to keep us both sharp to come to the rodeo. But outside of the practice pen, I do heavily on the mental stuff and try and
mhm.
stay mentally fit to go down the road because there's sometimes that you won't hit a practice pen for 2 weeks and you have to know how to deal with the rodeos that don't quite go the way that you want.
Mhm. Well, and is that something that's new to your kind of regime, or is that something you've been practicing for a long time now? I know you talk to a lot of people or hear stories that more people in rodeo are adopting that kind of flexing or working on their mind muscles. But how long has this been part of your kind of practice routine?
Um, this probably since I went to college. Honestly, I went to college and got my ass beat by everybody down there, and I went and honed my physical skills for the sport, and then it basically I worked very closely with my coach, and it was more of a you got to believe in what you're doing, and so it was probably again my second year of college that I started like that's when Hope and Larry D they have a mind coach and she started coming out with more things and it was just the
Mhm.
information was more accessible for us and more people were starting to talk about how you have to have a good mindset going down the road if you want to win like it's more than half of your run that you will be doing and so I started it in college but when I got home from college and went my first year down the road I heavily put it into my program.
Did you notice that it took a while for that stuff to kind of kick in or like see results from it, or was it like a because that stuff when it comes to your mind, excuse me, it's never easy to kind of like figure that out. But how long did it take for you to start seeing results and be like, oh, this is actually working, or was it instant, or did it take a while? What did that look like for you?
um I would say it's a process. Like I think
Mhm,
that everybody's different and how much you put towards it and how well you can actually do what it's saying without having a setback and whatnot. I think it's different for other people, but like I noticed it. I like the biggest change that I noticed was within 30 days. And
mhm,
they say it takes 30 days to break a habit and within 30 days of being super diligent about it, I started and noticed it working and even now I can sometimes feel myself let go of it and I'll rein myself back in and like now that I'm diligent about it know what works for me.
mhm. It's good to have those tools and being able to recognize that. I think that's kind of the biggest thing is learning what again works for yourself and having that. So it's that's definitely the hardest part. Um, one thing I wanted to ask too is or I'm curious about is equipment. I know it's like kind of a subtle thing, and maybe it doesn't. Maybe some people have different approaches than other. But what are you pretty particular with your equipment that you're using, like specific rows, specific feels, saddle types, that kind of stuff? It might be a dumb question, but I'm curious to know.
No, honestly, for me, like bit choice is very important. My two
Mm.
horses ride complete opposite bits, but my black horse, I've probably used every singular bit type that there is out there. But last year, I found a bit that just really, really like adopts to his style, my riding style, everything. And so I use a Randy Reed on him, and that is his bit. It doesn't get touched by another horse. It doesn't get used by another horse. That's his bit. And then for a saddle, I'm using an Equitech calf roping saddle right now, and that's my choice if I can have it. Like if I was to have everything I want, I would ride all those saddles. But and if I am at a jackpot, I'll be in that saddle because usually I just ride one horse at a jackpot. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not super particular, but it does help to just have the little things because we have to go so fast all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Are you like partial to any like rope brand or rope like stiffness or softness, or how does that look for is it I guess it can't really like vary that much from high down roping, but
Well, so most girls, like I used to use a calf rope. I switched over to Rattler to the striker. I am very particular on rope weight. So you can have
uh
everything from a 8.0 to a 10.75. And for the strikers that I use, I have to have a 10.0. Anything below a 10.0 just does not feel good to me. I don't like it. And so it's my rope I'm very particular about. And sometimes I will use a Viper, but I use a Viper 10 too. Again, if I use a 10.0, it doesn't feel right.
God, that's interesting. So that kind of leads into something else is I want you to kind of break down a run for me, like a good run. Say you're the like you're a 2-3, or like the run you were today in Stavely. Like what are some of the things you're looking for? How do you set up? How do you make sure you're scoring right? You throw a good loop. Can you give me like a rundown of a good solid breakaway run in the best way you can? I'm interested to hear this.
Okay, well, so I guess I'll just use this morning as
Yeah,
fresh.
yeah. This morning's perfect. Yeah, yeah.
So I was about uh yeah, I was about 19th out in slack. And so normally I'll get off my horse and go watch some runs on the ground, help out some girls, but mostly I'm up there watching to see what the start is, and I start planning my run around what's getting me out. So what's the barrier set at? And so this morning it was looking like as long as they commit to go out of the chutes, you could go. So that's where I start my baseline. And then I try and find a calf that's similar to what my calf was at a different rodeo. So I knew that mine was a tad stronger. I'd watched a girl that was a tad stronger. And then actually, I had a couple friends ask me what they think I should see, and they nailed out the barrier. So that
Mm.
just re encourages the fact that I know what I should see. And then most of the time I'll back in the box and I'll wait for them. I'll sit my horse in the box, wait for them to string the barrier across, and I'll back up and I'll wait. There's just a moment that I know with my horse. He just kind of comes forward in his breath, and I just know it's a good time to nod. And I just I'm really like I can watch the start, and I just know what I need to see on him.
Mhm, mhm.
And today was just a very solid run. I come out of the box. My calf actually stepped off to the left, so I stayed up a little bit longer and just I don't know. Everything outside the box just feels pretty easy to me, and
Mhm,
that's the way
mhm,
it usually is. But most of the time, what sets up my run is what I'm going to see. If I
mhm.
can implant it in my brain what I'm going to see, the rest just usually follows.
And how often is that setup and everything varying for like rodeo to rodeo? Like, are you having to do this at every place, or do you go back somewhere that you've been that you kind of know the setup, or is how how much is that stuff factoring in?
If you've roped at the setup before, it helps because you've been in the
Mhm.
boxes. For instance, like Medicine Hat and some of our first indoor rodeos, they kind of have longer boxes, so you kind of have a feel about them. But mostly, it just depends on the type of calves that are being brought. Like Bonneville was very cold, very rainy. The calves slowed way down, so even though the barrier's set the same as it was last year, your calves are now slower.
Mhm.
So to me, I like to go and watch some girls go before I ride in the box just to know, just to get the feel of everything. But I truly do think that it's a feel. And if you can have your feel down, the rest of your run usually goes a lot better.
Well, that goes back to what we were talking about before with the horsepower, like having that feel for your horse. Like you mentioned, like, hey, you can feel your horse take that breath, and it's a good time to go. But it's funny. It's like something that happens so fast, and it could seem so simple to people. There's so much that goes into it outside of just the 1.8
Yeah.
seconds or 2 seconds of the run. But it's interesting to see. Like, I mean, and how do you keep that side sharp? I know it's obviously like probably part of the mental side of the game, but how do you just ensure you kind of have the feel? How do you keep the feel right?
Um, it's more of a gut check. Like I say, like it strives right off your confidence. I don't think it's something that you can't practice in. It just comes from
Mm,
years of going because it's such a feel. Like I can't explain to anybody. Like I may tell girls like this is what you need to see, but I may see something that's not even what I'm saying, but I know that's the right time to go and
yeah.
it just you know winning is won through entering and a lot of losing. And I always tell people when they ask me, I'm like, I'll tell you, but I'm just like, if you can learn to break out on your own merit or be late on your own merit, you learn how to score. Because you get to set up like stably. If you were late today, you can say, oh, well, that wasn't the right score. So next time you run into the situation, you're going to peg out the barrier every time. And so I just think it's a loop of having confidence in yourself and just knowing that I would rather break the barrier making my own decisions than try and second guess myself. I want to fully break it or fully get out.
So you mentioned confidence a few times there, and I know it's a big thing, especially in rodeo for a lot of different, and even just athletes across the board. And you talked a bit about how you're having your early season struggles, and again, back to the mental side. I'm sure that's part of what you're doing to get back to it. But how do you battle through that adversity when confidence is low? Like, what are you doing, or what are some things you tell yourself when you're in a bit of a slump to kind of see that light at the end of the tunnel?
The first things that I do is I don't talk about it. Like I don't you'll never hear me say that I'm in a slump or having any issues whatsoever. You'll hear me say that I like to come from behind and there's lots of rodeo season left. Like talking about it I think is the worst thing that you can do because you just say to yourself that it's going to happen. Like
Mm,
if it's not going good, there is something positive that's happening. Most of these rodeos, I mean, I've pegged out the barrier at two of the three rodeos last weekend. I didn't go the way that I wanted, but I've been, and eventually, like, all I just, eventually I'm going to hit the barrier and I'm going to win the rodeo. And if you can't kind of have that confidence in yourself to back it up, then you're probably going to stay in the slump. But I don't talk about it. I find the good things. I find that my horse is good. I'm roping good. And just, I guess if you just, to me, I've seen enough rodeo and been around enough people that everybody goes through it. And the people that usually get through it, they just don't make a big deal about it because it's not like you to go through it. And so I just keep telling myself that.
well, that's a good outlook on it. I think that's again, like, you hit the nail on the head there with the people who get out of those slumps, or the champions, I guess you could say. Like, they know they're gonna get out of it. It's a small thing. You see it in any sport. Like, anybody talk about being in a slump or whatever, they know that they're gonna come out of it eventually. So that's a good attitude. Okay, couple more things before we wrap up here, Shaya. Looking ahead to 2024, what are some of your goals for the season? And yeah, start with goals. Let's start with the goals for the season, and I'll ask the second part.
I would like to make the CFR again. I would like to get into the top 30 this year, and I would like to make the tour finals in the States.
Dang, those are specific, right down to the point. Awesome. Okay, cool. So looking at like, we're getting into Cowboy Christmas. It's obviously gonna get it pretty busy for everybody, both sides of the border. What are some of the rodeos you look forward to during this run, and what are maybe some that, or one that you haven't won yet you'd like to win, or maybe a favorite or a hidden gem rodeo that we could share with the listeners out there?
And I brought it up with you in Leduc. I would like to do some good at Williams Lake. My brother always seems to do good there, and I have seemed to not do good there. But this year is a whole new year. I'm excited to I didn't go to it last year.
Mm.
I opted out on it, but this year we're going to it, and I'm excited to go to that one. North or south of the border, everyone's telling me that St. Paul is a very, very cool
Ooh,
rodeo. So I'm
yeah,
kind
it
of
is.
excited to just go and experience it. Yeah.
Sweet. That's
But
awesome.
I those are based, I'd like to do good at some of the places that I haven't and repeat at the others.
Is there a rodeo out there that kind of has your number that you haven't quite found success there yet? But like obviously you will eventually. But what's the one that's kind of got your number a little bit?
Actually, no. I feel like honestly, the rodeos that have my number are the early rodeos. Like it's for some reason it's
Mhm.
always Tabor and Coleman. Like I don't know what it is, but it's Tabor and Coleman, and it's just terrible every year.
And for me back in the day, it was always like a hometown rodeo or a hometown situation because like I'd always put that extra pressure on myself, be like, oh, all my friends are here, I gotta do good. So
And
kudos to
see, like Stavely, I've always done good at. Like I say,
yeah,
like
I was about to
honestly,
say.
I thrive under pressure. Like coming from behind, need to make money. Like I
Yeah,
thrive under pressure, and so
dang.
I think that sometimes if I can amp myself up in the right ways, like it's even like said about winning Canada, I just was looking at it wrong. It's just pressure, and I like it.
Yeah. Well, it's people say diamonds are made under pressure, so you've definitely adopted that strategy. But I think that's gonna wrap it up, Shayla. I really appreciate
Sweet.
you taking the time and hustling
Yeah,
after the
no
slack,
problem.
and it's good to catch up with you. And I'll be in touch, and I'll see you probably somewhere down the line here in the next few weeks.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thanks, Wacey.
Yeah. Cheers. This has been episode 15 of the short round. We'll be back right after this. Alrighty, welcome back to the show. Thanks once again to Shaya Biever for joining me for this week's interview. She was great. I was so impressed to hear her speak. I've known Shaya and I've seen her around. I've talked to her a little bit, but just hearing her outlook and her mindset towards the way she competes and how she goes about her business was pretty cool. So I hope everybody enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Well, Clay, we have we got more rodeos to tee up for you as we head into the weekend. We got yesterday we had the Gunners Bronc battle happen over there in Gleichen and some big moments out of there. So let's start there and we'll get into Innisfail and Wildwood and Stavely from that. But Kyle Wanchuk won the long round with an 89 points on Big Stones Rubles. Talk a bit about Kyle, man. He's kind of again another one of those guys we talked about kind of emerging and finding his way, but that's a big time ride for Kyle and at a big time event.
For sure. Again, after just winning Buffalo Lake there a couple weeks ago and now stepping out and taking that long round. I mean, some of the time those long rounds are almost harder to win than the short rounds because you're up against the 30
Oh
guys.
my
And
gosh, yeah. And if you look back
so,
at the roster in Gleichen there, dude, like there was the big dogs like Damian Brennan's there, like Zeke Thurston, the Hay Boys, like everybody who's anybody almost is freaking there riding. So yeah, that the long round does make it easy on them boys.
yeah, for sure. And that Rubles, I mean, been such a great horse for so long here, come from the Ash Cooper string there and everything. And I mean, they won Brooks on it the weekend before as well. And you just, that's a good one to have. It takes a little bit there. That horse is moving away, it moves pretty quick, pumping that head up and down. You got to be lifting, you got to be charging and gassing, but there's definitely been a ton of money won on that bay horse.
Well, and I think the highlight of the night goes without saying, but Cade Bruno won the short go with a 91.5 point ride on Mary Lou of Northcott Yules, which I think is our first 90-point ride of the year. So hats off to Cade for that regard anyways. But I was only able to see the video, but it looked like a big time bronc ride. And Cade proved last year at the NFR why he's one of the best in the world. So it's cool to see him up here and cool to see them get a big score on a horse coming from the Northcott Yules. And it was so many good moments out of one ride. And it's cool to see our first 90 of the year.
Yeah, that Cade Bruno is he's a wolf out there. Like he
Mm-hmm,
just
mm-hmm.
rides every one of them so aggressive, so well. And again, just gets it taken care of day in, day out, and has for a couple of years here. But yeah, really made a statement at last year's NFR. And again, seeing him up here, it's showing that you're getting some of these Americans starting to think about coming back up here and test the waters up here. And great for Yules and Northcotts to have the win at their event on one of their horses
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that big moment. That's got to feel
Very
really
cool.
special. I know Jeff and his committee there put so much work into that event, and to see it really take off. I think they've had a little bit of trouble with the weather the last couple of years. So
Yeah.
it's just third year in here to really have just a great event, and I know he said he was pretty happy with it. So
Third
it's
time's a
good.
charm. So yeah, no, good to see Cade get. I guess we can consider him the winner there, but a lot of money handed out. Cade walked away with 86, 27, 22. So pretty solid payday for I guess it would be a Tuesday night. Yesterday was Tuesday. My days are Wednesday night.
Wednesday.
Yeah, sorry, my days are all over the place, but pretty solid takeaway for a Wednesday night. So hats off to Kate. Hopefully see him going some more up here. I know we got Wildwood. Actually, that kind of segues into the weekend. We got to tee up for you. The Wildwood Brock Buston's back for another year, and if you look at the roster, it's another stacked lineup. And uh, so last year was my first. I got hired on the 15th by Pro Rodeo, so it was like my first week of work was right after the Wildwood Bronc Buston, and that they had kind of like the night of 90s. I think there was like 3 or 4 90-point rides that one night between all the guys in the short go there, and it's kind of like turned into like the same thing as like a Pollockville or the Glen Keely Memorial PBR they have in Stavely. Like it's just one of those places that has that energy about it, and they just seem to smash out 90-point rides like crazy. So that's one to look forward to on the schedule.
For sure. I mean, Wildwood has been, well, it's the original. You can call it
Mm-hmm.
the OG. It's been here for I think it's over 20 years now. Started out as just an invitational bronc riding, but has been CPRA approved since I believe at least 2007.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was fortunate enough to get into that a couple of times back then, and it's just continued to grow and really set the standard of what a really good bronc match is. And again, the Wildwood town it's by no means a big town, but boy, they get behind that event,
Mm-hmm.
and they've just really helped it grow and again set the blueprint for what you want to see in an event. And again, at the base of all of that, it's not flash and lights and everything about that. The main part of that is the bronc riding, and they show
Mm-hmm.
up and they ride.
Oh yeah, they kick ass with it. So it's one of the I think it's a highlight for a lot of competitors on their schedule. Obviously, like with the tie to the Hay family and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's if you wanna check out the roster who's gonna be competing this weekend, you can head to the Pro Rodeo Canada website. It has the full draw and everybody who will be up in Wildwood at the Bronc Bus. And we also have a couple kind of staple rodeos on the schedule this weekend. We got the Stavely Pro Rodeo and the Innisfail Danes Ranch Pro Rodeo happening this weekend, which are, I would say, even just looking back at my short but sweet career in the pro rodeo, those are two of my favorites to hit up. They're always they're just it goes the same thing you're saying about Wildwood. Just a couple communities that just gets really behind their events, and I think Innisfail is like one of the coolest venues in Canada we have for hosting a pro rodeo.
Absolutely. The Danes family obviously is synonymous with that. It's on their land. It's the family ranch arena, and I mean they've just hosted so many tremendous moments in pro rodeo history, and just yeah, when you look back at Jack and everything he built there, and how the next generations have just carried that on and
Mm-hmm.
kind of gone about it in their ways, and just kept that tradition going. It's I mean, I filled my permit on a rainy day in Innisfail back many moons ago. I got on my first novice horse at a pro rodeo at Innisfail on a rainy day, and just it's just again you as a bronc rider, that was always the place to go, and just such tradition. I mean, you've got whether it's Ivan, whether it's Jack, whether it's Kyle, Dwayne, they're just a tradition of bronc riders, but a tradition of just rodeo people in that area that really come to get behind that event, and it's a great one to get to.
Yeah, it's hopefully you have some sunny days there this weekend, and on is Stavely, are they indoor this time of year, or are they outdoor? They're indoor, the
Yeah.
Stavely indoor pro rodeo, so they can battle the elements, and that's another great rodeo. Stavely's a good rodeo community, like I mentioned them with the Glen Keely Memorial PBR they host is a great event, and they also have the rodeo this spring, which is I think is definitely one of the better ones. We're deep in the heart of Alberta's cowboy country. So going to be a great weekend of rodeo action, Clay. I'm excited to get together and kind of recap it all and see how the chips fall and see how many 90-point rides they crush out of Wildwood this year. And it's gonna be awesome, man. But I think that's gonna do it for the show, man. It's been great to catch up. And yeah, I'm looking forward to episode 16, I guess.
I'm thinking about it now, and I don't know how confident I am in saying that Staveley's indoors because they used to always be a lot
Yeah,
earlier
the
in the year.
Stavely in, yeah, but I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it's outdoor. I saw a video from yesterday. So, and sorry to the folks down at Stavely, we need to do our homework a little bit better. But if you're in the area, check out the Stavely Pro Rodeo this weekend. But yeah, man, I think that'll do it for us this week. Unless you got anything
Um,
else, feel free to fire away. I guess we could throw out a good well wishes to the Oilers fans out there. I'm not going to say go Oilers go, but they're in the thick of their Stanley Cup playoff run. So hopefully I'm so conflicted with that. I'll be happy that for a Canadian team to win, but just having to hear Oilers fans brag about it for the next 60 years is going to be annoying. But anyways, we'll leave it at that.
I'm currently booked for a sub day next week because the teacher's got a ticket for game 6 that
Ooh, well,
may or may not happen. So
I don't know, man. After the first 2 games, it's looking a little
yeah,
sus. But
there definitely needs to be a little bit of different urgency there for sure. But
I'm
we'll
sure
see.
Oilers Nation will be out in full form. Yeah, I'm sure Oilers Nation will be out in full form this weekend as they host their 2 home games. But all right, Clay, I'm gonna let you go. This has been great. We'll catch up with you in a couple weeks. Not a couple
Sounds
weeks,
good.
catch up with you in a week, maybe. But anyways, we'll be in touch. Alrighty, this has been episode 15 of the short round. I'm your host, Wacey Anderson, for Clay Creasy. It's been great. And if you want to stay up to date with what's going on in Pro Rodeo Canada, head to our social media pages. We got Facebook, we got Instagram. Sometimes we're doing stuff on Twitter, or just head to our website for all the news you can use and staying up to date with what's going on in the Pro Rodeo Canada world. And yeah, we'll catch you all for episode 16. Happy trails.